little nervous because I mentioned something when we were talking off the air about a battle rap, and that might happen, and I'm a little scared.
Have pity on me. I got like an hour and a half of sleep last night, so I am barely functional.
I told him you could be the one whichever one you danced to better. Like we could rap,
you know what?
You could be the dancer.
Oh God.
All I will say is, please be nice to me. I'm far too exhausted.
No.
That's which you know.
Honestly, Steph, I'm going to be serious for a second. I really do not want to meet the person that's mean to you, legitimately. Like I like you might be. I won't know if you're like the sweetest person I've ever had on the show, but you're up there. Like you're like in like my top 5 on that. The person that makes
I try really hard. I have my moments, but
listen, I'm sure when you have to be, you can be a hardcore, tough, take no prisoners kind of person. But you're generally like one of the nicest people I've ever talked to on the show.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like hearing that. So
yeah, so I like the person like that's really mean to you. I don't want to know them because if Matt doesn't put them in like a box somewhere,
we could tell you
probably would.
Let me say this. I won't say the show. I won't say who it was, but we did a show one time,
like a live show, not like one of these.
Yeah, and one of the people on a panel disrespected Steph. They disrespected a couple other people on the panel as well, but they specifically disrespected Steph. I was not able to be at that panel, but I caught wind of what had happened, and there was some fire in my eyes at that point. And luckily, I literally made a beeline to be like, dude, what the heck? But luckily, they were there with another friend of ours, and so like kind of through indirect means, we kind of smooth that stuff over. But yeah, I don't play that crap, man. That's
no. I it's like honestly, like I'm just being serious for a second. I'll disagree with you sometimes. Like we're human beings.
Yeah,
we all have our own points of view. But like okay. Again, the more I look up Steph, actually the more I look both of you up, I'm like, why am I here? Like seriously,
no, dude. You are, you know what I appreciate about you is you're one of the few people that takes time out of their day to lift other people up.
Yeah.
And not just by like random posts, like you will actually try very hard to reach out to people and just offer up words of encouragement and positivity. And the thing is it's like genuine, because like some people just do it just to do it, but that is not you at all. Like you actually mean it, and I think that's really cool. So you got to keep doing this podcast. It's good for creators.
I gotta be me. Like, but I'm just saying from an accomplishment standpoint, both of you've done some amazing things, even well before you two met, and what you're doing currently. So it's just like, but seriously, because the show's changing. Like when I break 1,000, I'm officially going on the road. I'm trying. I don't know if it's gonna be like 1,000, but it might be 1,010, somewhere in like early thousands. I'm gonna take off, and it's like, so I'm kind of like one of the other reasons I brought you back, and I'll just get this out of the way right now, is in the last 3 years I've been very blessed to meet a lot of people, including you two. Well, meeting for digitally at least. Yeah,
of course, it's still meeting.
Yeah.
Digital absolutely counts.
Okay. I have been I'm impressed with what you two do, but you two generally, okay. I've sung Steph's praise. Matt, you're also, whether you want to admit this or not, you're a fairly sweet guy, and you're a fairly sweet guy in your own way.
That, man.
Yeah.
So, he is.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, I've been bringing back not just people. I'm still bringing new people on the show, but every once in a while, I'm bringing back people from different eras of the show that have been some of my favorite guests. So I want to say, thank you very much for being two really amazing people.
That.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So now we got that stuff out of the way. Okay. So I actually might be able to support your campaign properly this time. Yay! So,
I totally get it.
No, but I can find, but honestly, so so here's the thing. I'm probably, this is not really a big secret. I'm probably secretly 12 at heart. I think everybody knows it. So
that's the best place to be.
Yeah, totally. Right. So But you got a really cool book about God, man, that, and now I'm it's like Misfit Club. Is it Club Misfits or Misfits Clubhouse?
Misfitz Clubhouse.
Okay. Phew. I'm a trained professional. They gave me an award for this once upon a time. You know that, right? I'm an award winner. Anyway, no. So, yeah. So, I mean, you guys are doing that right now. And, like, honestly, okay, I know a lot about Harris Visselder, but this one's kind of like, is it like a personal challenge, a personal, like, project for your kids? Like, what's the origin? The origin of this.
The origin of it actually came from a friend challenging us to write stuff that was more, knows our personality. Richard Rivera, for the creator of Stabity Bunny, knows our personalities. We're good friends with him. And he's like, man, I think you guys would do really good writing, a kid's friendly book, all ages book. It doesn't mean our other stuff isn't kid friendly because there's not curse words in the books, anything like that. But Richard kind of challenged us. And so we started writing. We had an angle that we were going on, and it was going a little more YA. Nothing wrong with it being like a YA novel, but it was still going a little bit skewing a different direction than what the ask was, what the challenge was. And then one day, I kept pushing and pushing and pushing for the YA one, and Steph's like, I don't think this is the direction we want to go. I don't think this is the way we want to go. And we were working on it, and I was like, well, what about this other thing that we've got? We had some notes down. Like, what about this one? And I'm like, give me your favorite animal right now. Give me an animal. Can't be a dog or a cat. And she goes, ferret. I'm like, cool. I picked sloth. Okay, we have these two characters, a ferret and a sloth. We're making a story out of this. And over time, it's been really fun where it wasn't like this big, massive, overarching thing where we started. We just kind of started from a silly concept. And it's given us the ability to, when we have a fun little thought pop up and we want to make a quick little short story out of it, we can, because it fits there. It's not like with Heirs of Isildur or Tales from Nocturnia or other things we do where it's like, here's this big, huge thing with plots and subplots and hidden Easter eggs that might come back in three issues. This one is just like, hey, 4-page story, boom, let's do it. 10-page story, boom, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, okay, first off, we did have some company show up. Dust Bunny Mafia says, what's up, everyone? So hello, Dust Bunny Mafia.
What's up, Dust Bunny?
Yeah, that's right. Second point. No, actually, you know what? I love silly stories for the sake of being or I shouldn't say that. Not silly stories. Fun stories. You're not going in there trying to tell this big epic. Those are fun, but sometimes all you really need is just two characters. Okay, what kind of silly stuff can we get into right now? Like one of my all-time favorite cartoons, and this ages me very much. Pinky and the Brain. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Taking world domination was always the end goal. You knew this, but the way they came up every night they would come up with a different plot, and it's just like, this is the silliest stuff ever. I'm in. I don't care. I'm just in. Take me for a ride, right? And those sometimes are. I think honestly, sometimes they're secretly the best kind of story, because sometimes not every epic stories you try to say something big and bold, and there's definitely a place for that. But there's sometimes I just want to goof off and have a good time, and those stories are, I think, and sometimes you can sneak in some profound stuff in those stories too, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I learned something,
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely where Misfitz Clubhouse is. The issue that's on Kickstarter right now is called Sharks, Dragons, and Little Red Wagons. Everything in Misfitz Clubhouse is short stories where, if we need, hey, it's going to be a 32-page issue. How many stories do we need to have? Oh, we don't have enough stories. Let's write another one. So that way we're really free to be able to make sure that we don't go, oh, well, we don't have enough pages. We have to go and force extra pages into this story, or we have to cut some pages out. We're like, oh, we don't have enough pages for this issue. Let's write another short story and put it in there. Which silly short story do you want to put in there? And one of the best things about this issue is we originally were going to put a different anchor story in this issue, but Steph has a stuffed animal that sits in her room that she made with her kids many years ago. And it literally sits there, and it is in vision quite a few times. It's a shark named Bruce McTootherson. And one day we were on the phone and I was just like, you know what? I'm like, what if we made a story about Bruce McTootherson? That'd be ridiculous. And like, it just kind of snowballed. Next thing you know, it's Bruce McTootherson, aquatic investigator. And it's very similar to how when the Fat Albert gang would run back to the clubhouse to watch the Brown Hornet. It's in the same vein where our kids are going back to the Misfitz Clubhouse to watch the newest digital release of their favorite character, which is Bruce McTootherson. And this character is starting to take on a life of its own. His story isn't even out there yet, but everybody seems to love Bruce. I mean, Bruce is there's a little shot of excited Bruce. He's so excited. He's got his little excited pin. We got our Bruce McTootherson socks that everybody seems to love. The story is one of the most fun. Definitely the artist, Raheel Mohsen, I know Steph would agree with this, really captured Bruce and his emotion and the silliness of his expressions, probably as good as any character that we've had him work on, which is crazy because it's the first Bruce story.
Okay. So, okay, I have to ask this before we continue. Steph, I think it's really super cool that you and your kids made a stuffed animal, right? So, but yeah. I'm curious, what was the impetus to make it, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, it was Build-A-Bear. So, I mean, we probably should have stated that from the beginning. It was, we were walking around the mall. This was years ago. And we walked past Build-A-Bear, and this was in the summer. And so it was like right before Shark Week. And a lot of people that know me know that I'm a huge shark fan, and Jaws is my favorite movie. And so, that's not normally like a store that we would have gone to, but I'm like, well, we have to make a shark. Like, we have to, And so we made the shark, and then we named it because I have a thing for silly names, and it's usually the last names that start with Mick and end with son. So, and Matt loves all the names I come up with.
Oh, every one of them. My favorite names outside of Bruce McTootherson is she renamed the keyboard on her computer Mr. Buttons, and she's got a tree in her backyard named Mr. Lemons.
I name everything. Everything has a name. It's just, life is life is boring unless you've got like fun and crazy names for things. So it's the thing that I do. So yeah. I
think it's cool.
Matt pretends to really hate the names.
I don't hate the names. I just think that there's a certain level of name that could be she and I having some humor. There's a certain level of name you have to go up a little notch, maybe up here before it becomes a name we could put into a story. But Bruce McTootherson was by a mile one that just begged to have a story made about him.
Okay, so I have a theory. We'll see if I'm on something or onto something here. We'll see if my theory works, right? So here's the thing. I think your borderline, Matt, is there's a fine line between cute and just a little bit of a bite to the name. McTootherson has a bit of no pun totally intended. No pun intended.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Right. Because Mr. Buttons, while I have an inner appreciation for it because so one of my stories, I have a unicorn that literally farts out rainbow advertisements.
Nice.
So yeah. I figure spam will survive an apocalypse, and I figure a unicorn that farts rainbows would be the ultimate form of spam bot. So that was my idea for a story, but I made it cute on purpose. Right. I made it cute on purpose. Right. So but the thing is with cute, the problem with cute is cute doesn't by its general nature sound rebellious enough. Does that am I accurate there, or am I?
I think part of it. I also and Steph will attest to this. I like to make sure that we have names that don't ever get confused. If you hear Bruce McTootherson, immediately you know that is something that we're doing. It's not like, oh, that other story with Bruce McTootherson in there. I'm not somebody that's into single one-syllable words that are just a noun. Because think about how many stories have characters with the same exact name. It's like with Tales from Nocturnia or even Heirs. We try to make sure that there's characters in there, whether it's the spelling, whether it's the name, that when you hear that character's name, you're like, oh, okay, that's the from Heirs of Isildur, or that's from Tales from Nocturnia, like Beninock the Executioner. You tell me what other story's got a Beninock the Executioner in there. It's a name that you know is synonymous with the product that we do. And to me, Bruce McTootherson, I was like, that's something we can build on right there. We can build on some Bruce McTootherson action.
It makes me laugh every time I hear it in like a good way. It just makes me laugh every time. So you got talent. No, like I said, I just think that's the line. It feels like cute versus like a little bit of an edge or something, maybe with depth. That's what you're. Yep. Is that? Am I?
Yep, I can roll with that. I can roll with that. I think that's accurate.
Okay. I gotcha. So you know what the ultimate challenge then, Steph, is at some point you gotta make him lose a bet at some point and just do a cute comic. Just do total cutesy stuff.
I don't know. Misfits has its times where it is pretty cute and silly, and but we do know where to draw the line, just because that's not really. I mean, despite my crazy naming, that's not really either of us. I think like the too cutesy. In fact, I get on to him sometimes about some of the words he uses. I'm like, that is way too Disney Channel. You're not allowed to use. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. If it like came out of one of the toddler in Full House, then I don't want to hear it. Like no. So we both have our limit to the cuteness. That was one of the big things with doing an all ages comic or kids comic or family friendly, whatever buzzword you want to use for it. We knew that we wanted it to have a certain level of whimsy to it that wasn't so saccharine sweet that we were going to completely knock out a whole like subgenre of audience with it.
That's fair. Actually, again, I'll actually get serious for a minute or something like that. When you write to kids, when you write for kids, the important thing is never to write down to them.
Yeah.
They can act like kids are incredibly resilient, more than we often give them credit for, to be perfectly honest, because we forget. You guys once upon, right? And the fact of the matter is, like, the best literature that it's young adult, family friendly, whatever buzzword you want to use, challenges kids as if they were adults, at least on some level.
Well, and the thing is too that, like, I said this on another show as well. I think that there's two phrases in comics and entertainment that get misunderstood on a regular basis, and that's all ages and adult. And there is a meaning for both those. So all ages can mean for little kids, and adult can mean soft core or cheesecake and all that. But it doesn't have to always be that. Like when we say all ages, we mean, and like we actually try to not use that phrase as much because people misunderstand.
Yeah.
Misfitz Clubhouse can be read by anybody. We say it's for the young and young at heart. I watch cartoons. I still have Legos all over my house. I was literally just showing Steph earlier today. I've got one of the most expensive actual pieces of Lego that was only available in one set. That piece sells for $120 a piece. And I'm like, because I'm a collector, I've got Garbage Pail Kids around, I've got Legos around, I've got Pops. That doesn't make me not an adult. It means I like fun stuff. And so we look at Misfitz Clubhouse. Misfitz Clubhouse is a fun book for fun people. If you don't like fun, then you aren't going to like Misfitz Clubhouse. But if you're somebody that aspires to have fun at any point, Misfitz Clubhouse is for you.
Yes. Some people I wonder about, but I think generally speaking, all of us like to play a little bit. That's the important thing. If you take yourself too seriously, meh. No, I agree with you. Like although like on a personal note, like when I go to a comic shop today, the book I still wish was on the stands all the time was Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, because I honestly think like this is always like, this is a very common thing when you go to a comic shop, right? Is getting a book for a kid to get into is one of the hardest things to do. And when you go to a comic shop, because it's like, I want to get them Spider-Man. Nope, can't do that. I want to get them X-Men. Nope, can't do that. Right? Teenagers, maybe more so, but like for kids, that doesn't exist anymore. And back in the good old days, and I'm going to say shut up clouds, right? All ages, all it meant was that anybody, like as you said, anyone could get into it. I don't know why it's disappeared from comic shops, but it has, and I'm sad for that, because I think you need I think not just comics, but books in general, you need a healthy kids section or an all ages section or something to that, or else you are damaging your industry.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely. And the other thing too is that we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just fluff. There are lessons to be learned from each story that we write, but they're also not beating you over the head, because I can't stand that either, you know. I don't really think that it's needed unless it's actually made like, you know, as like a PSA or something. So you know, I read to my kids at bedtime when they were younger all the time. And so I know what I enjoyed reading as an adult. And I could tell what lessons were in the stories, and the ones that I enjoyed reading in the most were the ones where it was like enough subtlety to where they're going to pick up on it, but it's not necessarily holding their hands. Because like you said, kids are very perceptive, and they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for sometimes.
Smarter and tougher. And like I said, and the best actual stories, the best actual story, hold on a second here. Very cool, Dust Bunny. Yeah, no, you just got, your books are your books, right? And you gotta, and again, just because a kid can enjoy it, again, me too. Like, I'm actually very curious what Lego set that is, just on a personal note. But
so here's what it is. If you go back, it was one of the medieval farm sets, and there were a little goat that came in that set, and that goat was only available in that set ever.
Wow.
And so the price on that thing is going crazy. Well, one of the things to touch on what we're talking about, one of the things that we really try to keep in mind is we try to take current world politics and things of that nature and remove that completely from what we do. It doesn't matter what the story is, because we all know that the world is very polarized right now. And you can very quickly and very easily disenfranchise half of your fan base just by taking a political stance in what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not, things that can be learned, whether it's in Airs or whether it's in Misfitz. It doesn't mean that there's not some stuff that's there, but we try to leave it up for interpretation by the reader, because and I come from the metal world, and in the metal world, there was a story way back in the day that said Mortification and Deicide should tour together because they're the same band. And so if you're not familiar with that scene, Mortification was a very heavily over the top Christian metal band. Deicide is a very over the top satanic metal band. And the article was saying these guys are more about their message than they are about their art. And they're out there trying to preach first and foremost, and then the art came second. And so they were saying these guys should just go tour together because all they care about is their message more so than what the art form is that's there. And this is not me saying agree, disagree, but you couldn't be somebody that was anti-Christian and like Mortification. You couldn't be a Christian and like Deicide back then because it was so over the top. And we see so many times in comics that people want to do the same thing. They're like, I need to make sure that my comic is forcing an agenda, and then I'll worry about the art that's behind it. And then the agenda could be anything. It could be whatever it may be. We don't want that for what we do. If somebody else, if that's what they want to do, that's great. We want to make sure that this is our mantra. We want to make sure you can have characters you can relate to and universes you want to escape into. What you relate to in that character, what version of the universe you want to escape into is up to your interpretation. But we want to make sure that we're giving you that so that you can enjoy the story no matter race, creed, color, political affiliation, anything.
I tend to call myself a political atheist. I just at this particular point in my life, just because I think all of us are tired of, like, okay, we all have views one way or the other on issues, and that's fine. But none of us really, like, do you really care? like honestly what someone's opinions really are. I'm just going to assume, like maybe this is me being a benefit of the doubt for all. I'm going to assume, barring a very, very certain extreme reactions, you're trying to do the best you can with the information you're given.
Yep.
So I don't want an agenda. I don't need to be preached to. I don't want to pass the collection plate to that. And I mean, it's not even just Deicide and Mortify. I mean, you could look at other bands like Rage Against the Machine, right? And a few other ones. Like, yeah, I mean, it's good to believe in your message, whatever that is. But at the same time, like, I actually find sometimes if you really want to inspire people to think, you give them the freedom to be themselves in whatever context you create, right? You can challenge someone's point of view, but if you do it in a way where it's like, okay, this character is making a choice, and maybe it's a choice maybe you don't necessarily agree with, but it fits the character. That's interesting, right? That can create some interesting critical thought. Now, why did they do that? Why was that right for them? Why do I disagree with it so strongly? Like, what idea do I have? That's the best kind of growing up, right? That's the best way to that's the best way to understand people. That's the best way to grow. You know what I mean? And that's something I've learned. Like, the best way to get a message across is to give people a choice. And when you give people a choice, people are more receptive to you.
Well, and I think too, I mean, if you look at the industry we're in, we go to Comic-Cons, what is half of what a Comic-Con is? People dressing up as characters.
Yeah.
People want to find an escape from reality. They want to find a way to escape from the world. And if we're not providing them an escape so that they can go and live the life that they want, then are we really doing our job? And we want to go and create those things for people. So, I mean, I think it's a big deal. I mean, people they cosplay as their favorite characters. Why is it their favorite? Maybe it's because of the way they look. Maybe it's because of the things that they do. We want to make sure we're giving people stories they can be like, hey, you know what? I really like that character. I want to go be a part of that universe. That's a big thing to us. And if we're not giving them a universe they want to be in, then we kind of really haven't done that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to ask this because you mentioned like stories you read to your kids. So what the story, I'm not going to say your story is like this, but I'm just saying, like, when you're looking at those like stories for the kind of audiences you're trying to reach, like, what were the books or stories that you gravitate to when you read to your kids that said, this is what I want to do?
I know for me, it was usually whatever their interests were at the time or what they gravitated towards, because then I knew that it was going to hold their attention. If I saw that it was about a character or like an animal or a setting that I knew that they loved, then I would get it. And so that was kind of what led me. And I think that we, in a roundabout way, touch on that with Misfits, in that we want to write about the stuff that we enjoy. And I think that goes for any writer in any story. If you don't like the subject matter that you're writing about, then why are you writing about it in the first place? That's why we have a shark, named Bruce McTootherson in our story. And we have, we kind of, and some of the stories are, might be loosely based off of life experiences or things that we've done in the past, or, because that's what we enjoy. And that's our passion is going to come out more when we're writing about the stuff that we know about or the stuff that we love.
Absolutely. So, okay. So you've got 2 issues in the can. I'm not going to ask you to spoil too much because it's a bunch of short stories, right? So, okay. So short stories are like, they're a different beast because I find when I do short stories in comics, it's hard not to cram too much in a story. Right. So oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. So my thing is, okay, you're given like, what's an average story in Misfitz Clubhouse? 8 pages, or is it like?
They go anywhere from 4 to 16, but yeah, I would say 8 is probably about an average length. Yeah.
okay, so 8 pages. So when you guys are plotting, like, is there like a magic line? It's like, this is too much of the kitchen sink for one story. Is it like, because again, I it's very easy to get lost in all the fun stuff you can do sometimes, especially when you only have that much of a page count.
So again, if we go back to it, the first 2 stories we wrote of Misfits were 4 pages and 16 pages. So like even if that middle 8 pages is like our average, it came from a 4-page and a 16-page. We always will write whatever the length is that the story needs to be. There's been multiple times that we thought a story was going to be 6 pages. And as we started to plot it out, we saw the art. We're like, yeah, this has to be 7 because it wasn't going to fit right in 6 pages. When it comes to Misfits, and Steph, correct me if I'm wrong, the way we approach it, which is different than Airs, is we know that there can't be plots and subplots and all these different things that you might be able to like touch on and then come back to later on in a larger story. In Misfits, it is normally the one direct storyline that's there. There might be some subtext. There might be a character, like for instance, if you look at the campaign page, the character you see is named Captain Bluebeard. And he was just a character that appeared in one panel in the very first story. And we thought that he was cool. And so we made him a recurring character to bring him back. Bruce McTootherson actually appears in a very slight role in another story as just like a background character. We have a lot of little things that we've put into the stories that are just there that are completely unimportant to the story at hand, but they're things we're probably going to cash in on later on down the line if we wanted to do a bigger story, overarching story. We just try to be a lot more simplified there because, if you try to be like, oh, we're going to have this massive subplot, you can't really do a massive subplot in a 6-page story. It just doesn't work that way.
That's accurate, Miss Steph?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a couple other fun questions about the Misfits. Do they age? Are you going to keep them that age forever?
So that's actually a really fun question. So if you look at the Misfits stories we have out right now, there is a little bit of an age range between some of the stories, and we're okay with that. I mean, I'm not sure if you watch the show Young Rock on NBC.
I'm not cool enough for television anymore, man. I don't have
time.
So
Young Rock is actually a really fun story. It's about the
yeah.
wrestler and the actor Rock, and there are 3 different ages that you will see him at in the show. One is like, preteen, one is late teens in high school, and one is as he's becoming an adult in the wrestling world. And then you'll also see him like as he's flashing back to those different things. But the show alternates back and forth between those different time periods with complete ease without even thinking twice. Now, Misfits doesn't go to that level. Misfits, the kids are all basically in the same age range, but that doesn't mean you might not see them a little bit younger at times, or maybe just a little bit pushing forward, whatever fits the story. But I don't think you're going to see it where like we're going to have a Misfits are now in their 30s and paying their mortgage off and, talking about stock options. I don't think that that's a very fun story. So I think it's probably going to be closer to like Charlie Brown, and the fact that the Charlie Brown kids are always the same age, or South Park is always the same age, but they're just a little bit of push there. What do you think, Steph? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And we've actually had discussions about it before. And, we will we'll get the art back. And that's one of the things that we try to take track of is, do they look like their age, or do they look too old or too young? But, and our stories are ever evolving. Who knows, we may change our mind one day. Although I can definitely say that we're definitely not going to ever show them as adults paying their mortgage and all that, because nobody wants to see that.
But and you know what though? Now that we say this, we might have to do a flash forward story.
I actually had it in my head when I saw the Misfitz Clubhouse. I could just see them D&Ding themselves somewhere down the line. That'd be kind of fun. That would be kind of like a fun thing to do.
You
Like,
never know.
Like
we like to say never when it comes to like probably 99% of options out there. And so you never know. We may change our tune on that. It just kind of depends on how long Misfits goes on. And that is kind of up to our readers and our fans and our supporters.
No, I think it's one of the hardest questions to ask, because you look at, say, Spider-Man. They started aging him from like high school to college to adult, and that was actually part of the charm. And then they kept him forever somewhere between married and making a deal with the devil. And then they've kept him there ever since. And yeah, so I on a personal note, I could do a meta commentary about Spider-Man being secretly in hell all the time now, but that's neither here nor there. Right. But I think there's a charm sometimes in keeping especially, like, say what you will about the Simpsons today, but the fact that they never aged the characters adds to their timelessness, oddly enough, right? Because they could be at any time, at any place, and you'd recognize these characters. So the con is, I think after about 30 years, maybe they should age the characters. 30 years.
South Park has been going on for how many ever years, and their kids are still in like 4th grade, 5th grade, whatever it may be now.
Yeah. Does Kenny still die?
Actually, no. So one of the things about South Park was that they actually killed him off completely for many years. And then they brought him back and said, we're not going to have Kenny die all the time, because they were like, we want Kenny to be an actual character, not just a prop.
Yes.
So Kenny does not die anymore. He's actually just a legit character.
Okay, cool. Like I had to make a very tough decision. I had to give up something. It's either I chose between comics, books, video games, and television, and something had to go. For me, it was television. I am okay not being cool anymore. I will never know what's current with shows, and I am very okay with it. I've learned that you only have so much time in the day, right?
Yep.
And yeah, you don't have so much time in the day, so you got to pick your battles. So modern references. I'm going to be one of those, like, in about 2 or 3 years, those really generally clueless, right, people. I have no idea what that reference is, like, ever, right? And right, and I'm good with that. I have come to my terms. Although funny story, I thought a buddy of mine was so clever. He's saying some really, really funny stuff. And then I thought he was really clever. And then I finally saw How I Met Your Mother for the first time. And it was like, I was like, I am oddly disappointed. I thought he was smarter than this.
Yeah.
I've accepted that being my fate. All of which to say, it sounds so, like I said, it sounds like you got yourself a really good start with this, and you guys have kind of a plan. It sounds like you got a master plan anyway, of some kind. Anyway, okay, so this is the other question. I realize you could go hypothetically forever, but do you guys also, like with something like this, have an ending in mind in case you ever want to wrap it up?
With Misfits, I think it's too early on for us to even think about that. Yeah, with this one, it's, between us and Richard at Scout Comics, there's a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different discussion points that are out there, and I think to me, there's probably 2 ways that Misfits would end, and that is if we don't have any more fun short stories to tell. And the other one would be if the fan base basically said by the show of hands, in a sense, which in this world, the show of hands is not buying the issues. We're not talking about it, just not supporting it anymore. I feel like you have to look at those 2 things together. But with as silly and ridiculous and so let me just tell you the kind of people that Steph and I are. So without naming names and telling you the story that it's in, we got some art back on a story, and the artist put the word poop in there, and both Steph and I have been cackling over the way it was used in the art,
It was
And
very creative. And I
very
mean,
creative.
that's so vague, but trust me,
Yeah.
it's hilarious.
But just know that Steph and I both are the kind of people that find that kind of stuff hilarious.
We're
And
12-year-olds at heart.
yes. So I mean, literally, the first thing that she and I ever bonded over was "That's What She Said" jokes, and so as long as there's stuff like that to be able to tell, that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
We're going to still be telling those silly stories, making people laugh, lowbrow humor. That's just a part of who we are.
No, I can totally respect that. I mean, like I mentioned, unicorn farts out advertisements. If you really sit there,
That's true. Yeah. So you speak our language, too.
Yeah, I kind of did. I mean, at the grand scheme of things, no matter how smart you are, at the end of the day, it's all about the poop jokes. It's really
well, and you know what? So I'm going to show you this little image here of excited Bruce again, and there's a reason why I bring this up. So this is one of the most fun images that Raheel Mosin drew of Bruce in the story that's in this issue. When you see the panel that thing came off of, you'll understand the kind of humor we like. It is one of the most absurd panels ever in Misfits, and it's hilarious. But the panel that came out of is one of the most absurd panels ever in Misfits.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm gonna cry a little bit about this. I am gonna cry just a touch, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I'm actually doing this. So I'm not gonna add anything. I'm sorry, guys. I can't add anything because of my dollar is how do we put this a joke. Monopoly money disguised as currency. It's basically the Canadian dollar right now. And I understand, blah, 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 blah. I'm actually backing your project right now.
I definitely appreciate that, man.
We appreciate that.
Well, so there you go. If you guys look at it, you'll probably see that I'm there. So.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, no.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it was the poop jokes. They did me in.
I love it. Well, the thing that's great about this too is now as of last night, whenever the show shows, last night from when we recorded this is when we finally got over the minimum funding level. And for a title like this, it's really hard to fund on Kickstarter because of the style of title. It's not something that's based around like 33 covers and that kind of stuff and ultra collectibles. Like, right now, we're literally running this campaign, and we are in the process of getting everything together to fund Heirs of Isildur. Like, we've literally got the Heirs of Isildur issues for Perilous Prospects Book 2. Literally just got them in hand last week. And, that's the kind of issue that really does well on Kickstarter. Issues like this don't fund as well. So, and especially in the economy that we're in and the challenging financial times, every little bit helps, every backer helps, every dollar helps, and that's massive. And so everything, we definitely appreciate you backing it. That just gets us closer to a stretch. We have a stretch goal at 2,500. We have a stretch goal at 75 backers, and we're well on the way to get to both of those places. The stretch goal at 75 is actually pretty fun. Once we get there, everybody's going to get a Clubhouse crew ticket. The kids, Miki, Stu, Fairy, and Slothy, have a secret meeting. And you can only get in with a ticket. And everybody, when we get to that point, is going to get a ticket. And you're going to have your own name handwritten on there very poorly by one of the Misfits.
Sweet. Oh, gosh. So I have a request with mine. This is a request because look at my last name. I somehow feel I'm a challenge for most adults. I somehow feel my name might be a very difficult thing for them to overcome.
Might get butchered a little bit, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, 14 letters in your last name.
There's 13. Actually, no, there's 13 letters. It's not it. But see, so here's the thing, right? So I've heard all kinds of fun stuff if my last name over the years. Pants to the Rescue, which is the most common one, right?
I can see that. That's a good one.
Yeah. No, totally, right. My personal favorite is there used to be a telephone company called Cantel Amigo. Phonetically, it just pops me. I don't know why. It does. And I'm going to make somebody a little famous here. So this is grade 6. Rob McLean He is from London, Ontario. He was introducing me as part of a VIP program they had in grade 6 in Evelyn Harrison Public School, ladies and gentlemen. And he goes, Josh Pentella, Josh Alphabet. He literally said that like. So what I'm saying is, if we're gonna add a touch of quote unquote realism, I'm not saying your kids aren't smart, but I get the feeling there would be at least a little bit of a stumble here and there. So if you get to that point, I want to stumble.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yes, I want to stumble because that will make me pop just a little bit, right? So, yeah, that's the request. I figure I can ask it because it's just like it feels real, right?
For sure, man, for sure. Like I said, we whether it's airs, whether it's we want to make sure people feel like they're really fun and there's ownership over time. If that's what you want to be on there, then that's what you're going to get.
Yes.
Everybody in the book there's going to be a thank you list, to the people in the Clubhouse crew, so your name will be in the book. There's times, like there's people that are getting drawn into this book that have bought it as tiers. There's a couple people that for personal reasons have been drawn into this book that some of them, that when they see themselves in there, they're going to be like, hey, that's pretty dang cool. But we always want people to feel like that there's a little bit something extra. Like I don't like personally picking up a comic book, and I've seen far too many where you pick it up and it's 24 pages of story, and you've got the one page of like say the credits in the front, and maybe you have a couple ads in the back, and that's it. There's no additional content. There's no anything that makes you feel like there's further stuff to be able to grasp onto. We always make sure that is there in every issue that we do. Especially like in Heirs of Isildur, we have, like 3-4 pages of character bios and expansion. We always call it expand and understand, to where you can dig deeper into characters and understand what their importance are. It's a little different with Misfits. You don't really get that deep into it because it's 4 kids, Ferret and a Sloth, and their little adventures. But we try to make sure that there's a little bit extra, so that way when you pick up the Kickstarter version versus say the Scout Comics version, that you'll be able to feel like, hey, on that Kickstarter version, I see my name in this book. I helped to make this thing happen. Whereas the Scout Comics version may have, say, different cover art for when it goes out there to distribution. We just always want to make sure that you can go show your friends and be like, hey, dude, look at this. That's my name in that book.
Yeah.
Well, I'm cool like that.
Yeah, no, it is cool. The biggest thing, again, this is a back in my day thing, and I know Clouds, just shut the fuck up, Clouds. But anyways, no, the biggest, like, letter columns ruled. That was the cool thing, like, about comics back in the day. Like, there's a few that still do it. Like, Saga, right, from Image, still has the big, long letter column in the back, which is awesome. But yeah, the extras are such a rare thing. And I think, honestly, with a book like this, although it's not quite the right word, customer service. The fact of the matter is people are backing it and you're going the extra mile with people.
Yeah. That
adds up a lot more than people realize. I mean, collector variants are cool. I'm a big fan of certain kinds of collector stuff. But let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. Our favorite stuff, right, is when people are appreciated. And is that extra feeling of appreciation goes a super long way with anybody. I remember, like I said, my last job at Cheerleader, like when I actually in Calgary, when I left the job, I thanked everybody I worked with that made a difference over the years. The look on some people's faces for that thank you was, I did not think it would be that powerful. But I remember one guy in particular, he couldn't stop smiling for the whole fucking day. It was awesome, right? Because again, people appreciate being appreciated. It's something I've picked up on a long time ago. Well,
I can tell you, and this is something that's happened in the last couple of weeks that was really important to Steph and I. Like we said, we've got Perilous Prospects Book 2 that we just got in, and we had just sent out the digital version of this to the backers a few weeks ago. And we had there's some stuff in this book that's pretty thick book. It's 56 pages, and there's the main storyline, but there is a ton of subtext and a ton of small storylines, a ton of deep cuts. There's characters that are brought back that people haven't seen for a couple of years. And we had one of our super fans, one of our ultra fans, they're bigger than super fans, that when they read it, she was like, oh, I saw this, and I can't believe this, and I want to know this, and blah, blah, blah. And then we had the cover artist. So the girls that did this are a cover artist team from Steph's area, from Visalia. They are Chess and Gwyn. They write a story called The Bohemian Trials. And they are new to the series. They're new to our series. And so when they read the issue, they sent back their thoughts, and we were just blown away. We're like, holy crap, they really picked up on this, and they caught that, and they caught this. And as writers, that means so much, because we're like, okay, we're putting all this time and effort into making sure that there's a really deep story if people want it. And somebody has picked up on those things, and somebody found it. So for us, having somebody that's been there from the beginning, basically, with our ultra fan Annie, that picked up on these things, and somebody that's new to the issue, new to the series, that picked up on some of the same things, we're like, okay, we did that right. We did it right. People of all walks of life can pick this up, so we know the story's going the right way. And with Misfits, it's kind of the same way, especially with Bruce. We've had more people comment about Bruce than anything. People just see the socks we have in there. They see Bruce, like, dude, that's a great name. The character sounds fun. And, they love Bruce as a brand new character as much as they love Miki, Stig, Fairy, and Slothy.
Yeah. No, okay, so fun story. I did my very first signing for a comic book I published way back in like 2009, right? At the comic shop I grew up getting comics at, LA Mood, in London, Ontario. I've lived a little bit of everywhere, as you can see. He takes the book, he takes it to the back, he reads it, he comes back. It's a mystery story. He answers the mystery right there and then. I was like, yes. Because sometimes you wonder if you're the only one
to have that. It's like,
because
then you're like, okay, the goal that I had in mind when I wrote this is getting picked up by somebody at least.
Yeah, no, that's totally it. Like mysteries in particular are weird because you have to put the answers there, but you have to do it in a way that the audience doesn't always consciously pick up, right? But if they can still figure it out, it's kind of like you're cool to figure it out, but anyway, it was like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm doing or something, right? You have that like moment of affirmation, and it's a wonderful thing. Again, I talk about it in other shows. Like, yeah, I want to get paid to do what I'm doing, but more than that, I want people to enjoy what I do, right? Yes. That's what it comes down to. Because if I create that joy, right, I will I'll get everything else I want eventually. And that's kind of how I feel. Maybe it sounds like you two feel kind of the same way.
Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you that my thing that I say all the time is, and I'll say my biggest fear as a creator is the creating something to the sound of a pin dropping. Like, you do it and it's just complete silence and nobody cares. Nobody has any reaction. So when people take the time to read it, when people know that you're taking the time to involve them or show them that they matter, and they give you the same thing back. Like, when we send out our communications, whether it be email, whether it be campaign updates, we always tell people, we don't want this to be the end of our interaction. We've sent you your PDFs or we've sent you your physical books. We don't want that to be the end. We want you guys to read this, and we want you to tell us your thoughts. We want that there to be interaction, because it matters to us. If you've enjoyed this book, it matters to us if you are really vibing on a character. I don't think we've ever changed a character or modified a character based on fan input, but we have absolutely modified characters or included characters more based on artist input. There's some characters that are in Heirs of Isildur that, because of the artist input and the artist really vibing on it, we're like, oh, that's amazing. That character looks awesome. Now we're going to name that character. They're going to be part of the story. And the artists have been like, you're using the character that I put in the background? That's so awesome. Misfits with Raheel. Raheel does some of the most ridiculous things with some of the characters. Captain Bluebeard wouldn't even have been considered to be a character if he wouldn't have taken this one-off panel in the very first story and done it so ridiculously that we wanted to bring him back. So it's like we love having that kind of input. Just before we got on, we were looking at one of our anthology stories where we always, once the art comes in, we'll go back and relook at the dialogue to make sure that the dialogue that we originally wrote before we saw the art still makes sense with the art that's there, to see if we have to kind of maneuver it around. We love that input so that people know, hey, we've helped to craft the story just as much as you guys did.
Very cool. All right. I got, I think, 3 questions, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. The first one, though, is I think that's the easiest one to answer. Okay, you guys talked about like doing like a bunch of short stories for the Misfitz Clubhouse. Would you do a longer story?
In my mind, I would say absolutely. I would say that we are, like I said, we have these little tiny pieces that are kind of unimportant to the stories at hand right now, that we are putting those little things out there so that we could potentially cash them in at some time. We've talked about stuff. That's right. We've talked about a potential story that would be maybe a full-length issue down the line. Whether we cash it in or not, we shall see. But we definitely are planting those seeds. So if we want to cash it in, we can.
Okay. And Steph, you same thing? Kind of, you feel the same way, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just making sure here. All right. This one might be a tougher one. I'd like to hear both your kind of goals here. I think one of the most important things about stories, it's not so much about how they make you think, although I do think that's important. It's about how they make you feel. So what do you guys with Misfitz Clubhouse want people to feel after reading it or experiencing it?
I think for me, I want people to feel like they were, and Matt brought up our kind of our little catchphrase slogan, where we say, we want to create universes you want to escape into and characters you can relate to. I think if people can finish reading the comic and put it down and feel like they had some sort of escapism for a little while, and they were able to forget their troubles or their worries, or if they had a bad day, or even if they had a good day and they were able to go back to that good day, but they were still able to escape. I feel like that for me, that's my job here is done. If I can allow somebody to get absorbed into our world for a little while and enjoy it, then anything else beyond that they feel is just added bonus.
I would say with Misfits, if we wanted to get deep for a minute, I would say every one of us in our daily lives, there are little things that happen that we blow out of proportion and think they're the biggest deal and it's so important. But if you step back, you're like, are those things really important? They're really not that big of a deal. And we're making them mountains out of molehills that we really shouldn't, because in the long run, they're not that big of a deal. And if you look at Misfits, the very first story, I Don't Want Any Asparagus, and little Mickey Mayberry is losing her mind about her mom making asparagus and how the world is going to end, and how she hates asparagus so much. These are the ridiculous things she would do if she was forced to have to save asparagus from a burning building, different things like that. She wouldn't stop him from walking the plank on the ship. Kind of think about it the same way. It's like, oh, that's right. These kids are making big deals out of stuff that really isn't that big of a deal. But to them, their whole world is like, it's massive. And as adults, we kind of do the same thing, step back and sometimes say, are the things we make a big deal about, are they really that important? But then also say, you know what? Enjoy those little things, because maybe that's the spice of life.
Absolutely. Well, I think life's an incrementation. Like, to keep it on the deep side of things for a second, life's an incrementation of a bunch of little steps. Everything in life is about the steps you take. What I've tried to learn, and as I've gotten older, we'll debate again. I always say this: we'll debate why is there some other place and time. But what I realize is I've self-aware enough to realize what's actually important to me, right? And what I can change and what I can't. The world's the world. I can't change. The world in general, like the big giant world out there, my impact, no matter how much of a fuck up I am, is going to be minimal. So that's a freedom, though, too. That means I can focus on what I want to do. So what do I want to do? And what am I willing to do to make that happen? right? And that's what and along the way, if I can help other people to have with similar dreams, that's great. Now that was always my decision and my choice. And when I have it like that, I try to keep my life simple, and so I don't let the outside storms, chaos, blah 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 get in the way of the important things. That's not always easy to do. Like, that's certainly not always easy to do, but I find unless it's directly impacting you, most of those things are distractions. It's the big stuff that's that's big stuff that either you can't control, or honestly, it's not going to affect your day to day. So what really matters is, what am I doing, and can I enjoy the little cool, wonderful things that come my way? Because life's, again, 1,000 steps and a bunch of little victories, and then one day you win. And it's like, holy shit.
That's exactly right. It's like, how do you traverse a mountain one step at a time? People get so caught up in the here's my end goal, and I got to get to that end goal. Well, you have to be rejoicing in every single step of the way, because that's how you get to that end goal, is through those little tiny steps.
That's right. And little victories matter. So we probably should, pimp your Kickstarter somehow, some way. Maybe that's the wrong word for all ages book, but it's time. We probably should put that out there somehow, some way. So
yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Because we are winding this bad boy down, and I'm going to say this once again. You two do a lot of really cool things, and I hope when I do go on the road, whether it's at a convention or whether maybe if I'm so fortunate to meet you in a place where you guys are not quite so public, we can hang out, and maybe you can show me your Legos there, Matt, someday, and Steph, right, and Steph, and Steph, when she's more awake, maybe out battle reps us all.
Yeah.
I think that Steph will probably be like, hey, come on, you get to go run 9 miles with me today. That's what we're gonna do.
Okay, note to self: before I meet Steph, give me myself about 3 weeks notice, so I don't die. I don't die.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, about 3. It takes about 3 weeks, because the first 2 weeks of long distance running kill you, and then you start to get a tolerance for it, and then you can do it. Yeah, I used to do long distance running a long time ago, so I remember. It's been a while though, so go gentle on me, Steph, when we meet.
Okay.
All right. So I got the link up. Why don't you guys do your $1 zillion pitch right here for everybody watching?
All right. So Misfitz Clubhouse, Sharks, Dragons, and Little Red Wagons. It's up on Kickstarter right now. At the time of this recording, we have about 10 days left. It ends on March 9th. This is the second issue in the series. We are super excited about this issue that's about Miki, Stig, Fairy, and Slothy, 4 neighborhood kids that have all kinds of fun adventures. There's 4 short stories in there. You've got Old Man Willow, which is about a menace that they've just found out has been terrorizing their neighborhood, or so they're led to believe. Beach Bash Bonanza, which has got Captain Bluebeard, who's found out that the kids are having a fun time at the beach, and he can't stand for that kind of nonsense. So there's a little conflict there between the kids and Captain Bluebeard. You've got Bruce McTootherson, aquatic investigator. There's been a robbery down at Fishback Sports, and Bruce is now on the case. Will his smarts be able to help smart the criminal, or is his buffoonery going to let the criminal get away? And then the last story in there is called Barrel Peril. This is the story that you're going to have an opportunity to get drawn into. There's tiers out there for it. One of the cool things about this is, with this also being on Scout Comics, that means that at some point down the road, this issue is going to get put out there through distribution, comic stores all over the country, maybe even all over the continent for those of you up north. And that means you'd have a chance to go into your local LCS and be like, I want to pick up that issue. Why? Because I'm in it. We have a lot of cool, fun stuff in the campaign. Steph, I'll let you talk a little bit about the Bruce McTootherson stuff. We got the pins, the socks, the cover. I know you want to talk about those different things. Am I correct in that?
Well, you saw the pin earlier. I'm pretty sure that was the pin that you held up. So
yes.
the pin with Bruce and his kind of silly pose. We have the socks, which anybody that has backed one of our campaigns recently, we've had socks for the last few campaigns. We're on, I think this is pair number 4 now, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they are legit, incredibly comfy socks. And I love socks. I'm always cold, so I wear socks all the time. And these are, I know when we first saw them and like the prototype, I thought, oh, I hope that they're not too like itchy or paper thin, and they're not at all. And we've had so many testimonials of people who have gotten them, either through the campaign or at our table, and just absolutely talk about how much they love them. So we have Bruce socks this time. We've done Misfitz socks before, but this is just Bruce and all of his silly, ridiculous facial expressions and just being all animated. It's all over the socks, and it's adorable. We really wanted to do that because Raheel, our artist, as we said earlier, really got the vibe with Bruce, and so we just wanted to highlight that a little bit. And then we have an exclusive variant cover that is done by Peter Raimundo, who is a former Disney animator. And if you ever saw any of the Disney movies during one of the Disney Renaissance, which was in like the 90s or so, you're going to know his work. He has animated Lilo and Stitch, Mulan. He did Princess and the Frog as well. And we met him at Collective Con in Jacksonville, Florida. In 2020 was the first show that we met him at, and just really got along with him and his family, and we became friends and really looked forward to seeing him at each subsequent show. We've done other shows with him now as well, and we always said, we've got to get Peter to do a cover for us, because he's now he's not illustrating for Disney anymore, but he's doing his own children's books, and a few of them are kind of aquatic themed and ocean themed, and so it just kind of naturally came together that he would be perfect to do a Bruce cover. And so he's done the Bruce cover, and it looks great. It's a lot of fun, and if you guys are shark fans or think you may be a Bruce fan, we definitely have some offerings for you there.
Yeah, we got one other cover by a teen artist named Emily Reset. She did a weird little mashup of 007 and Candyland. She decided that was what she wanted to mash up, and we're like, okay, that's a really weird combination. She put it down, and we're like, this is why you're the artist, because this works, and it is awesome.
I want to see this cover. I have ideas of what she did, but I want to see it.
Yeah, it's in the campaign. You can see it right there. And like I said, right now we've got some stretch goals that are upcoming. Ultimately, we've got very tempered expectations, but ultimately we just like to be able to see this campaign get to $1 more and one backer more than our first campaign for Misfits, which would be $35.10 in American and 102 backers, which I think still translate to 102 backers in Canadian. But we'll have to see. But like I said, we're just really glad that people have taken a liking to Misfitz Clubhouse. We've got a lot of big plans. Richard and Scout have a lot of big plans, and we're just really glad to be able to share this out there with everybody. Ends on March 9th. We hope you guys will get up there and become a part of the Clubhouse crew with everyone.
All right. One last thing. If people want to find you two, how would they do that?
If they go to if they go to the link tree for In Symmetry Creations, we've got a lot of our different links that are there, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Twitter. The music links for the Heirs of Isildur albums are up there. There's a link that's got the blog or the page where Steph's got all of her bylines for Fangoria, Creepy Kingdom, Horror Geek Life, all of her 70 or so bylines for those stories. Go to insymmetrycreations.com or go to /insim, or go to InSim Creations on Twitter or InSymmetry Creations on Instagram. All those things will get you where you want to go.
All right. Well, folks, I know I would advertise my own stuff, but the thing is, I got to get ready. In about 2 hours, I have to destroy John Westhoff and Commander. That's what I'm doing on the show next.
Nice. Nice.
John Westhoff, metal brethren right there, man.
Yeah,
John's a good guy.
So John's the so here's the thing. I'm always indebted to John because last year I got published in kind of like a zine, the On the Stack, but like my first actual drawing was ever published in that. So that's a credit to him. So I have to destroy him in Commander as a thank you, because that's the thing. There's actually going to be
right?
yeah, totally fair, right? And if I kick his butt, he reveals a secret. Ooh, if I kick his butt. Yeah, so that's gonna be a little bit later on today.
So what happens if he kicks your butt? What do you have to do?
I don't. We haven't talked about that yet. But
you have to reveal a
that's
secret
not gonna
now.
happen.
You have to reveal a secret.
Okay, that's not a punishment for me though, because I got no. Like I honestly, like straight up, like I'm pretty open book. If you ask me something, I'll tell you. So yeah, that's there's an evil twinkle in her eye. I'm scared now, but that's okay. On that note, guys, definitely check out Misfitz Clubhouse. Definitely check out Steph and Matt. I don't know if I get to see you guys on this show again in this incarnation. So thank you for every time you've been
Thank
on
you
it.
for having us. We always appreciate
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it.
Thank
Thank you for what you
for
do for creators. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
three of the first 999 shows.
Yeah, exactly. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys a little bit later today.